What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Stadium Drive Week 10 here on the Storied Rivals Podcast Network. Whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, thanks so much for making us part of your week, your Football Friday. Will Ford here. And this week, first of all, I can't believe that we're already at Week 10, end of the regular season, playoffs right around the corner. But this week is about as big as it gets. So last week, it was the big rivalry, TriValley Sheridan in the MVL, the biggest game of the year to that point, but this might be even bigger because the MVL Big School Division Championship is on the line. So the winner of this game that we're covering this week, TriValley and John Glenn, if TriValley wins, and they're 7-2 on the year. If they win, they claim the MVL Big School outright. They currently have a share, but if John Glenn were to win, they're 8-1 right now. Then there would be a 3-way tie for the MVL Big School Division Championship, and it'd be between John Glenn, TriValley, and Sheridan. So there's a lot on the line for both teams here this week. And, last week for TriValley, an emotional game, obviously, with the big rivalry, the 54th meeting between the Scotties and the Generals. TriValley got the win 28-17. And, TriValley was down early 10-0 very quick in that game. But Cam West and his guys battled back. They were trailing 17-14 in the third quarter. And what changed the game for the Scotties was that fake punt on a fourth down. And they called a timeout, weren't sure if they were going to punt it or if they were going to put the offense back out there on the field. And they decided to run a fake punt, converted it, caught the Generals off guard. And then from there, they kind of controlled the rest of the game, won 28-17. Jayden Wallace, 30 carries, touched the ball a lot, had some receptions out of the backfield, but 143 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. Now, he didn't break off really any big, big explosive plays. I mean, he did have a 20-yard touchdown run, but other than that, it was just chunks after chunk after chunk, 5 yards here, 7 yards there, just kind of eating away at the Generals' front seven. And really, the Scotties controlled the clock in the second half after that fake punt, got that huge win, claimed a share of the MVO title right then and there. But now they've got to come down emotionally and go do it again against John Glenn. And John Glenn, it's kind of interesting how they got to this spot because a couple weeks ago, their quarterback, Noah Winland, went down with a shoulder injury to his throwing shoulder, his right shoulder. And John Glenn's primarily a running team. They run it a lot more than they throw it, but obviously now with the injury, it kind of limits how much they can do throwing the football when they choose to do so. And Coach Edwards, talking to him this week, said Noah he's not completely healthy. He's battling through this injury right now, and he's toughing it out for his football team, and it's very admirable. And last week, he had 3 rushing touchdowns against Philo in a big 37-12 win. And I'm not sure, just objectively speaking, I'm not sure if a lot of people thought John Glenn would find themselves in this spot. Usually when you lose your quarterback, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot that goes up in the air as far as, can you put yourself in a position to compete for the MVL Big School Division Championship? And they've done so. They've gotten some help along the way as well. And here we are. This is going to be pretty interesting. John Glenn's defense, they've only allowed 14 points. That's the most that they've allowed in a game all year is 14 points. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they hold up against, Jayden Wallace, Max Lyall, who's been so efficient, did throw 2 interceptions last week. But it's going to be interesting to see how they hold up against TriValley's offense. It's probably the toughest matchup that they'll have all year. And then defensively for TriValley, how do they stop the John Glenn run? Because they I wouldn't say they struggled against the run, but Sheridan was effective running the football last week, and especially in the first half. And then they kind of got away from it and threw the ball a little bit more. And Caden Sheridan was only 7 of 22 for 77 passing yards. So, TriValley can defend the pass, but can they defend this John Glenn run? They're so solid up front. Noah Winland is a great runner of the football. The design quarterback run is something that TriValley has been trying to stop a little bit better this year. Obviously, how often are we going to see Noah Winland run the football? Lincoln Gilcher's going to get a ton of touches. This is just as big as it gets because not only is it the Big School Division Championship on the line, but it's playoff seeding as well. Win or lose, it can change who you're matched up against in the first round of the playoffs. It also can change whether or not you're hosting a playoff game. So this is some big time stuff here. But let's hop into it. We'll start with the visiting John Glenn Muskies head coach Matt Edwards, talking about getting to this point and losing your quarterback, his injury status, but defending this TriValley team and all the things involved. And then we'll follow it up with head coach Cam West coming down emotionally from a big rivalry win against Sheridan. And how do you attack this John Glenn defense, but stop that John Glenn rushing offense as well? So thanks so much for tuning in to Stadium Drive Week 10 here on the Storied Rivals Podcast Network. And we'll be live from Jack Anderson Stadium Friday night as the Scotties host the Muskies, man. So live at 5:45, and we'll have we'll play these interviews, and we're also going to feature an OCC game in Columbus as well. So thanks so much for tuning in, and here's head coach Matt Edwards, and then we'll follow it up with head coach Cam West. All right, we're here with head coach Matt Edwards of the John Glenn Muskies going into Week 10. Can't believe it's the final week of the regular season, coach, but I really appreciate your time. And this week, it's kind of crazy because you're taking on TriValley. The league title's on the line, but it's weird. Like, if you win this game, there's a 3-way tie for the MVL Big School division between you, TriValley, Sheridan. It's pretty crazy how this has all unfolded over the last couple of weeks. But like, your quarterback Noah Winland went down a couple weeks ago, and so you had some other guys step in and lead your offense. Did you when he went down a few weeks ago, did you expect that you would be in this position at the end of the year? Obviously, he comes back last week, and did you expect you'd be in this spot with a chance at a share at the MVL title, knowing that your quarterback was out for a couple weeks?
Obviously, anytime you lose your quarterback, that's usually a tough one to overcome. Fortunately, Jake Johnson has played for us, throughout the course of this year and last year at spots, and we're also using Owen Edwards a little bit. So we knew our team was built differently, and when you can play good defense and our running game has been solid all year. You're able to give the quarterback some friends, and you don't ask a whole lot of them. So both those kids have stepped in and done a nice job of giving us a chance to win football games, and fortunately, we've been able to do that.
Now, what do you think of Noah Winland's status as he's come back from the injury? 3 rushing touchdowns last week. So obviously he seems to look just as good as he did before the injury. But how do you evaluate, I guess, his health going into Week 10 playoffs and just everything the last couple of weeks that he's battled?
Yeah, he's still not healthy. He's battling for us right now through some pain. It's his throwing shoulder, which obviously makes it very difficult when you're a quarterback. So he's been able to help us in other ways on defense and kind of as a running back, but he's still definitely battling through some injury right now.
Now, your defense hasn't allowed more than 14 points all season, but this TriValley offense is probably the most talented offense that you face. This Jayden Wallace kid is just unbelievable. He has 20 total touchdowns on the year. He had over 100 yards rushing last week, touched the ball 30 times. He really is the driving force of the TriValley offense, and it just accounts for so much. How do you stop a guy like him? And along with Max Lyall, who's a really efficient thrower of the football and doesn't turn it over much.
Yeah, it's exciting for our defense, to have this opportunity to face extremely talented offense that they have, running game, passing game, both of it. We relied on our defense the entire year. We knew going into the year it was going to be our strength, and they've proven for 9 straight weeks that we think they're a pretty good unit, and this will be the biggest challenge on the biggest stage. And this is why we do this. Our kids are excited. Coach Ben and his staff have done a great job of getting them ready, and we're going to go up to Dresden on Friday night and put what we think is our best unit on the field against maybe the best offense, like you said, that we've seen all year. And it's just going to be exciting. We're really looking forward to it.
Now, offensively, obviously, you're primarily a running football team. That's your game, but throwing the football might be a bit of a challenge. Just given TriValley's defense is pretty good. They held Caden Sheridan, one of the better throwers of the football in the MVL, to just 7 of 22 for 77 yards. But then you also have the injury to Noah's his throwing shoulder. So obviously that makes things problematic. But how do you approach this game offensively, given the injury, given how good TriValley's defense was against the pass last week against Sheridan, and just all of those factors involved?
I mean, the answer is to be who we are. We know who we are offensively. We've relied on our tailbacks and our running game throughout most of the year. We rotate 3 kids back there, plus our quarterbacks have all 3 of those guys also run. So, we try to spread the ball around in terms of the running game. And then, based on what the defense does, if they give us the opportunity to throw some balls, we will. But, we're not changing our game plan week 10. We know who we are. Our identity is out there. We're not going to trick anybody. We're going to show up and try to run the football. And then, if they give us chances in the passing game, we'll take those.
Now, what's your level of excitement just going into this week with a share of the MVL title on the line? And the kids maybe weren't sure they thought they would be in this position, a couple weeks ago, just with everything going on. But what's the excitement of you, the kids, going into this game? MVL titles on the line, and obviously, playoff seeding is a big part of this as well. But what's the excitement of you and the guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that we're not excited about it. It's week 10, which is always exciting anyway. It's been a long season. And to still have the opportunities that we have this late into the season to go on the road and potentially get a share of the MVL title, to help our playoff seeding, and, some things happen right, along the way, potentially could host a home game, those kind of things. So, you have all those goals that you talk about at the end of the year, and or at the beginning of the year, rather. And most of the time when you get to week 10, for a lot of teams, those things aren't achievable anymore. And, we went through a couple of weeks where we said we're no longer in control of our own destiny. We need some help along the way. And fortunately, that help came last week. And, as soon as we found that score out, we were ready to, go and check up some more boxes. MVL title is going to be a dream for everybody. And, we get that opportunity to go up there this Friday and play for one.
We're really excited to see how this story unfolds and how it finishes in week 10 this season, Coach. I really appreciate you taking the time, not only tonight or today, but all season long, joining us just to kind of document the Muskie season. But best of luck this Friday. We'll be at the game where we're looking forward to see how this battle for the MVO title, Big School Division, comes together. But I appreciate the time, man.
No problem, Will. You guys have done a great job all year. I really appreciate the opportunity.
All right, we're here with head coach Cam West of the TriValley Scotties going into week 10 against John Glenn, and a chance now to claim the MVO title, the Big School Division, outright, but at least have a share of it at this point. But Coach, I really appreciate your time joining the show today. I kind of want to touch on last week, obviously, because it was a big game, rivalry, Sheridan. I mean, just talk about the emotion of that game and everything that went into it, because, I mean, it was obviously very close early on. And it wasn't really sure, it was very much hanging in the balance. And then you have that fake punt that kind of changes the game. And from there, you kind of took control, and then you were able to pull away in the final minutes of that game. But just talk about the energy, getting the win and a big rivalry game. And now you've set yourself up in a good position in week 10 for the MVO title.
Yeah, the energy that week we want to stay the same every single week, but it seems like every single year the energy around practice and just the media coverage and everything for Sheridan week is just different. And I'm just proud of our kids. I mean, we could have very easy. I mean, we're down 10-0, quick. We were down 17, or we were down in the second half too when they came out and scored right away. We went down 17-14. So it would have been really easy for our kids to just pack it in and kind of get routed there. But our kids, we've been in tough situations this year. We faced adversity. We've gotten beat twice, which you always hate to lose, but I think you learn some things about yourself and your team when you play tough opponents and you don't come out on top. So I'm just super proud of our kids. Like I said, it was an up and down game, and like you mentioned, the fake punt kind of changed the trajectory of the game. I think we gained all the momentum at that point, went down and scored, and everything was just kind of going in our favor. So that's why we work on those things every single week. And I think in my 4 years, we've used that twice, and we work on it every single week. So we just kind of save it for the right time. And we felt like, I guess that was the right time to use it. So I'm just glad it worked.
Now, Max did face a little bit of adversity in the game. He threw a couple interceptions, which he's only thrown 3 picks all year now. But the first one, obviously, it was just off the hands of Sensenbaugh, and so that those plays happen sometimes. But then the other one maybe wasn't the best read. But talk about how he's responded this week in practice to making those mistakes and kind of putting the defense in some bad positions, and now how he's setting himself up this week for success against this John Glenn defense.
Yeah, I think he's responded well. I mean, we spend a lot of time watching film, and I'm going to be honest, we're myself and his quarterback coach, Coach McGee, we're hard on Max. We don't really give him any slack. We feel like he's in a position where he's played enough football that he shouldn't be making some decisions. Like you said, the first one um, was a high. It was high. He could have thrown it a little better.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been caught. Yes.
Sure.
The second one, 100% on him. He should have just threw it out of bounds, and he knows that. And like I said, we're tough on him, and I think Max is a kid that he gets better the harder you are on him. We don't have to baby him. We're pretty straightforward and blunt with him, and I think that makes him a better player. And he's responded this week and had a great week of practice, and we're looking forward to a great game against John Glenn.
Now, your defense held Caden Sheridan to just 7 of 22, 77 yards passing, and so you really limited that pass game that's been so effective all year. But John Glenn's a bit of a different team. They run the football a lot more than they throw it, and their quarterback Noah Winland he's battling through a shoulder injury right now in his throwing shoulder. So he's the amount of times he would throw it, it's probably even less now. They're probably going to rely on the run a whole lot more. So how do you defend John Glenn's offense? Because like Sheridan was able to run the ball effectively against you in the first half last week, and so it gave you a little bit of trouble. How do you deal with what John Glenn's going to pose to you this week, because they're going to run it a lot more than Sheridan did?
Yeah, John Glenn always poses a threat. I think John Glenn has a system, and they're really good at what they do, and they don't panic. Every time we play John Glenn, they're running inside zone, outside zone, and they're going to keep running it. And eventually, they're just banking on one guy on defense not doing his job, and they hit a cutback seam where they hit a seam where a guy's not gap sound. So that kind of poses issues because they're going to continue to do what they do all game, and they always seem to give us some issues running the ball. I think Coach Edwards does a great job, and their staff over there, they do a good job, and they stick to their system. And like you said, with the injury they have at quarterback, the kid's a good runner anyway, so I think he's going to play and he's going to run the ball. And it's something we kind of struggle with quarterback run a little bit, but I think last week should give our guys some confidence defensively. I know our defense can play well. I've seen our guys play well against the Sales and against Clinton Massey. I thought we played well. We had a couple games there in the middle of the season where we just didn't do our job on every single play. But our guys didn't panic. I told them, like, we're a good defense, and I know we can play well. And last week, I think we showed that, and we played pretty well.
Now, you're coming off an emotional week last week with the rivalry, and obviously you've claimed a share of the MVL title, but this week it's another emotional week because now you have a chance at an outright title win. But if John Glenn were to win, then it'd be a 3-way tie for the title. So obviously, I heard you talking to your guys after the game, like you're trying to teach your kid how to share, but you don't want to share this title. So how do you get you guys just to kind of come down emotionally after a big Sheridan victory to then refocus and go out there and win an MVL Big School Division Championship and just set yourself up for even better position in the playoffs next week?
Yeah, it's something that we focused on all week. Our focus this week is to finish the job. We started this job in June, really, and our number one goal as a team is to win the MVL. Never at one moment did we talk about sharing the MVL with anyone else. So our focus is to finish the job, make sure the job gets done on Friday, and make sure that we are the only MVL champion. Obviously, John Glenn's a good team, though. I mean, we're going to have to really play well, and our kids know that too. We're not taking anyone lightly. They always seem to cause us issues, and I told the kids last year it doesn't matter. We kind of did what we wanted to last year, but this is a new year. They're a different team. We're a different team, so we just got to stay focused. And we're not worried about the playoffs right now. We are worried about John Glenn in Week 10, and whatever happens after Week 10 happens. We can't control other teams beating other teams and harving points and all that stuff, but we can control our attitude and our effort Friday night and try to win an MVL championship outright.
Well, best of luck this Friday, Coach. Go get another MVO title. Get it outright. Don't share it, and we're looking forward to watching the game. But I appreciate the time.
Hey, thank you very much.